In the year 1883, Friedrich Nietzsche began composing what he would later call his greatest gift to humanity, a philosophical symphony that would shatter every certainty the modern world still clung to with desperate hands. Thus Spoke Zarathustra emerged not as a traditional treatise, but as a poetic declaration, a book that refuses to argue and instead proclaims, challenges, and transforms through the voice of an ancient Persian prophet who descends from his mountain solitude after 10 years of meditation. Zarathustra comes down bearing a message that will undermine everything European civilization has built upon the foundations of Christian morality, Platonic idealism, and the comfortable belief that truth exists somewhere beyond this world of flesh and struggle. The book unfolds in 4 parts, each one deepening the prophet's encounter with a humanity that has lost its way, that worships false gods and denies the only divinity that matters, which is the creative power sleeping within human beings themselves. What Nietzsche crafted was not philosophy as the Academy understood it, but rather a new kind of scripture for an age that had killed its God and now faced the terrifying freedom of creating all values anew. Nietzsche himself lived in the shadow of chronic illness, intellectual isolation, and a growing sense that his ideas were too radical for his contemporaries to comprehend or accept with any genuine understanding. He wandered through Switzerland and Italy, his eyesight failing, his body racked with migraines, writing in furious bursts of inspiration that felt to him like lightning strikes from some force beyond his conscious control. The figure of Zarathustra allowed him to speak truths too dangerous for direct philosophical prose, to adopt the voice of prophecy rather than argument, and to reach for a rhetorical power that matched the enormity of his central claim. That claim was simple and devastating in equal measure. The old world has ended, and we must become something entirely new, or perish in the wasteland of nihilism that stretches before us. Nietzsche saw Europe sleepwalking toward catastrophe, clinging to moral systems whose foundations had crumbled, pretending that progress and science could replace the meaning that religion once provided. He needed a prophet who could wake humanity from this dangerous slumber, and so Zarathustra speaks in parables, riddles, and proclamations that strike at the heart, rather than persuading the intellect alone. At the core of Zarathustra's teaching stands the concept of the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman, a human type that has overcome the limitations and resentments that define ordinary existence. This is not a biological destiny, but a creative achievement, the possibility of becoming who we truly are, rather than what centuries of fear and guilt have told us we must remain. Zarathustra proclaims that humanity is something to be surpassed, a bridge rather than a destination, and that we must affirm life in all its suffering and chaos rather than fleeing into fantasies of heavenly redemption. The doctrine of eternal return emerges as the ultimate test of this affirmation, the thought experiment that asks whether we could bear to live every moment of our lives again and again for all eternity. Only those who can say yes to existence without reservation, who can embrace even the pain and failure as necessary parts of the whole, have achieved the strength that Zarathustra demands. These ideas converge in a vision of life as perpetual self-overcoming, a constant creation of new values through the courageous exercise of will, rather than submission to inherited moral codes. The book confronts the death of God not as a tragedy to be mourned, but as an opportunity for radical transformation that only the strongest souls can seize without collapsing into despair. Zarathustra declares that the old virtues have become poisons, that pity weakens rather than elevates, and that the herd morality of his age produces only diminished, resentful creatures who cannot bear the responsibility of their own freedom. He speaks of the 3 metamorphoses of the spirit, how the human soul must become first a camel, bearing heavy burdens, then a lion who roars his sacred no against all imposed values, and finally a child who creates new meaning through innocent play. Throughout the text, Nietzsche weaves symbols and images that resist easy interpretation. The tightrope walker who falls to his death, the dwarf who represents the spirit of gravity, the animals who speak to Zarathustra in his loneliest moments. The prose shifts between soaring heights and bitter mockery, between lyrical celebration and harsh denunciation, creating a reading experience that demands total engagement. And what emerges is not a systematic philosophy, but a call to transformation, a challenge to become worthy of the earth rather than just yearning for escape. Thus Spoke Zarathustra remains one of the most influential and dangerously misunderstood works in the Western canon, a book that shaped existentialism, inspired artistic movements, and was tragically appropriated by ideologies Nietzsche himself would have despised with every fiber of his being. The Nazis claimed him as a prophet of racial superiority, distorting his vision of self-overcoming into justification for their monstrous project. But careful readers know that Nietzsche attacked nationalism, anti-Semitism, and the herd mentality that totalitarianism requires. His true legacy lives in those who recognize that we still inhabit the crisis he diagnosed, that we still struggle with the collapse of absolute values and the search for authentic meaning in a disenchanted world. The book challenges us to become creators, rather than consumers of meaning, to affirm our existence rather than fleeing from it into comforting illusions, and to embrace the terrible responsibility of freedom that modernity has thrust upon us. Even today, the question raised by Zarathustra still applies to us. Can we carry the weight of a world that has no built-in purpose? And can we develop the strength to create meaning and beauty within it? The challenge is not to do this in spite of the void, but to do it because the void exists.